Hey everyone, good morning. From some secret undisclosed location for this episode of Combat Radio is legend Ralph Morse out there somewhere in the what is this? Is this your studio you're in, Ralph? Look at this place.
It's kind of where I rehearse, yes.
Yes, because you're a bit of a legend, stage and screen. But explain to the audience who are seeing stormtroopers why those are there.
Why are they there?
Yeah,
Um, well, that's because I was a stormtrooper in two Star Wars movies, basically.
that's right, you were. In fact, you were a notorious stormtrooper, right? Because you were one of the ones who froze Han Solo.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where there are several stormtroopers who claim that particular function. I know what
Uh,
I did, they know what they did, and we probably agree to differ.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say that, there are several actors that are in that scene. I think John Mogridge is one of them. And
Yes,
uh, so, what exactly did you do? So, if the audience is watching Empire Strikes Back today,
what
where's
within
the
what within
stormtrooper?
what within the carbon sequence or any of them?
Yeah, exactly. Start with the carbon sequence.
Okay. Well, the funny thing about being a stormtrooper, Evan, is that you can be stood almost anywhere. So the first thing to look to consider is I was in various positions at different times in that sequence. But the particular thing you're referring to was I got into I guess basically I got the part of a stormtrooper because of Peter Diamond, who was the stunt director. There's quite a bit of history to that, and I'll tell you that in a minute.
Mm.
But in that sequence, I was asked by Peter, just because I was to do this setup for putting Han in carbon freeze. And I believe the person I did it with was Alan Flying. But after that, I was replaced by a stuntman because Chewbacca throws him off the side of the, and that's a stuntman, not me. I can tell you, I didn't get thrown over the side.
All right.
Does that make a bit of sense?
Makes sense. Yes, I'm following it. So,
Um,
continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, no, no. That's basically it. It's one of those things where I was at that particular point in my life. I was preparing to play King Lear in the theatre. So I had bits of my script, like I was learning speeches, and I couldn't obviously tuck them in my costume, but I had them in various places. So my mind was, when I wasn't on set, my mind was quite occupied with learning my lines for King Lear.
Right.
So bits I remember are the bits I remember, and that's a bit I remember. But there are other bits that I don't remember so well.
So, I want
If
to
that
ask you
makes
about
sense.
that makes sense, and I want to ask you about your stage work in a second. But I
Yeah,
thought Kirshner was a brilliant guy. You like working with him?
I loved him.
Yeah, very
I
friendly and
think
open.
he was very. There's a sequence when the Millennium Falcon charges into Darth Vader's Star Destroyer, um, and that's the big picture of my head as Corporal Durdram. You get to see my face,
Hmm.
and there's the mise en scène, if you know what I mean by the mise en scène, the whole image as it appears. Kirsch, because he was a excuse me, because he was a director. Sorry, because he was also a teacher as well as a director. He was very concerned that the mise en scène was looking wrong. And with my forage cap on, I'm a little too high in that sequence. Do you know the image
Yeah.
when you the image of the carbon chamber? Sorry, the image of the Millennium Falcon charging into Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. There's a sweep on the set, and my head was above it. And he said, no, sir, yeah, you don't let you're not really happy about that. So I said, well, what if I bend my legs and bend down?
Smart.
And he said, yeah, that's a good idea. So that's what we did. I was like that for about 10 minutes until my legs started to give way.
I have to say, Ralph, that's not only an ingenious solution, but that's also a very good impression of Kirsch. That's pretty good.
I it's quite fun. I mean, I loved the guy, and but he did have a kind of he had a sort of Yoda-ish quality to his voice,
Hmm.
a little bit. But he's a fantastic guy. Yeah,
So
you could
you
talk to
are.
him.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You could talk to him, and he tended to talk to you, to your character. So he'd say, "Stormtrooper, come over here." You think
Nice.
you do that, and he's quite funny doing that.
Hi, I'm Jack Claff. Help us cure NMOSD and, with it, cancer. Please go to the Guthrie Jackson Foundation website and make a donation.
What was the first day like? I mean, you know what Star Wars is, right? And you know you're working on what
Well,
was, I think, labeled as Star Wars
well,
2.
yeah, the Empire Strikes Back. Well, no, shall I tell you how I got the part?
Yeah, how
Because
did
I
you
know I
get the part?
mentioned Peter Diamond as the stunt director. I I've never been able to conform to the usual way of doing things myself. I'm my own person. I've always been my own person. And an agent put me up for a small part in this film called The Empire Strikes Back. I said, "What's it about?" He said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll find out when you get there." So he sent me off to Elstree. And I'm thinking The Empire Strikes Back. Now, at that point, there were films like The Passage to India,
Yeah.
Jewel in the Crown, The Far Pavilion, all these things set in India. It's got to be about India. The Empire is India. Desk officer. Oh, that's fine. Because he did say that I was playing some kind of officer. So I thought, oh, desk officer. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I can live with that. Get to Elstree, and there's this enormous stage, and it says Star Wars. I'm not thinking that's got anything to do with me. Not at all. So I go into this office, and I'm waiting. And the guy says, well, we're considering for this small role. It was something like the second assistant director. Obviously they were writing things as they go through things. They'll change things, as you know. There's a lot of changes in Star Wars, but I didn't know at that point it was a Star Wars film, so I didn't know what they were doing. So I just waited, and I caught sight of Peter Diamond. Peter Diamond, as I said, was the stunt director on Dick Turpin, actually, which was a television series I'd worked on.
Right.
And this is interesting in itself because it's funny. That's why I remember things that are funny. I was playing a blackguard in an episode called The Upright Man. And I'd all been made up, blacked up to look sort of like this blackguard. And I was waiting to be told what I was going to do. And I got bored. So I thought, I'm going to see what's going on. So I walked on to the location, which was a coach house in Hertfordshire somewhere. And I went up to Charles Crichton, I think it was Charles Crichton's director, and said, what do you want me to do? And the assistant said, we can't talk direct like that. And we want you to fall down those stairs. Right. And it was like a coach house stairs. They bend sort of fiddly round like that. And I thought, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll give it a bash. I'd already done black comedy in the theatre, which I don't know if you know black comedy, but black comedy is about when the lights go out. So the lights come on stage. It's beginning of the production, the stage lights are off and you hear people moving around. And then they have a power cut. And then the lights come on stage and all the actors are moving their arms. And at one point, I fall down the flight of stairs. So I thought, oh, how to do that? Well, I made a pretty dreadful effort. There's real pig's ear it. And then the stuntman turned up, who they were expected to see. And Peter Diamond appeared, and he was a RADA trained actor himself. He looked at me and he thought that's quite funny. I mean, he could have said, get rid of him. I don't want this person. But he let me see a few setups and he said, I remember you. I said, I remember you too. And that was it. And then when I went to this audition, supposedly for The Empire Strikes Back, a film about India, as far as I was concerned, I saw him and wondered what he was doing there. They kept me waiting for nearly half an hour. And then a guy came out and said, look, the part you've got is it's like two days probably work. It's only a couple of lines. Or if you fancied being stormtrooper and doing a few other things, you could run their film for 3 or 4 months.
So
I thought, I was a theatre actor. I was playing King Lear. So yeah, at least know where I'm going to be during the day. So yeah, that's how it happened.
yeah.
That's how. So to bring you on to the first day, yes, I knew what Star Wars was. Yes, I was interested in space. I was fascinated with space. All my life I've been fascinated with space, but I didn't make any strong connections. So when I was shown into this room and there's bits of stormtrooper costume hanging on hangers, there's the leotard and the roll thing. There's the helmet. There's the thigh pieces, the leg pieces, the calf pieces, the chest pieces, the back piece. The bits on the lower arm, and they're all hanging, and you build each other together. So there's a few you put your health together. The last thing you put on the helmet, and you put it on sideways and twist it. And that's when the problem began, because I found myself on the set, and I couldn't see anything. So I was supposed to run down this corridor with 3 other stormtroopers, and I fell over. First crash, everything fell over the ground. This is my very first shot, and they look, and I thought, crikey, really, what I should have done, I should have taken. I really, really, really should have taken the small part. But
Did you
that's
think
life.
that? Did you think you should have taken the small part?
Well, I thought they were going to kick me off the set, quite honestly, because I made a mess of it. And then they said, "What's the problem?" I said, "I can't see." And then they looked at my helmet, and then the truth came out. Now you know yourself that if you get camera lights, sorry, you get lights bounding off certain things onto camera, you can see things you're not supposed to see. And the eyes in certain positions with the stormtrooper lenses, you got light reflective. You could see in the front of the camera or something, and they tried to dull them down. Well, they said to somebody, "Can you make them a bit duller?" And what they'd done is they'd used Brasso, which is an abrasive, to clean the lenses. And what I was doing was looking out at something like a toilet window. The old-fashioned toilet windows with the glaze. So they gave me another helmet. It wasn't so
Right.
bad after that, but you still couldn't see anything.
Did you enjoy?
That was my first shot. Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
first thing I ever did.
Welcome to the Star Wars universe. Did you enjoy your time on that though? I mean, it's great when you can do King Lear in the evening, right, and be like artistically on point with something ambitious, but also have a day job that allows you to eat.
Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. And did I enjoy it? I did enjoy it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I should, really, because it's fun in running around with funny costumes, isn't it? And I didn't have it, although I was aware at that point that it was a significant, that the Star Wars itself, New Hope, had been a significant film. I didn't, and I couldn't possibly have envisaged at that point how long term this relationship would be that I had with these movies. I couldn't have envisaged it at all.
Right.
It's just mind boggling, quite honestly. You think, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, these films, a few people will like them in maybe a few years' time, but not that billions will have seen these films and millions of people will be ardent fans, or that people dress up on Saturday as stormtroopers and abseil down buildings to make money for charity. That is just phenomenal, and I'm just extremely privileged to be one of them.
Yeah.
Not
And
that I've ever
honest,
abseiled down a building. I've never really walked down and abseiling down a building.
it's like it's one of those things where I think everyone is astounded in retrospect of what the movie's become, and to be able to do these things called conventions that seem commonplace now, but were not so much in 1980.
No, not at all.
And and to have people come up and just want to hear every sort of Star Wars experience you've got, that's a special thing, you
It
know?
is, and the thing that slightly bothers me about it doesn't bother me in a deep sense, but it kind of troubles me a little bit, is the way the memory works. So
Mm.
that you meet somebody and you'd have a conversation with them about something, and then somebody else, they remember something else. They get very upset because you don't remember it the way they did. Everybody's memory is unique,
Mm.
but you have memories that are purely your memories. And always what bothers me is when you get involved with other people, is that somewhere in there the truth gets lost because you're picking up other people's memories and they're picking up yours. And that's, I think that's one of the reasons why you've got so many people going around saying, I mean, how many stormtroopers have banged their head in that scene, for example. Now, the
Yeah,
stormtrooper that banged his head, so many people have claimed to have been that stormtrooper. But how many times has a stormtrooper banged his head? I mean, I've fallen over. I don't think I've ever banged my head, but I fell over enough times.
yeah, that's the key, right? I've talked to enough stormtroopers from the three movies, the
Yeah,
original three, that everyone has a similar costume mishap combat story of I bounced
yeah,
into things I couldn't see. And I think that's the interesting thing is like they draw parallels from their memory of like, where did that actually happen? Were we rolling or was that in the wardrobe trailer, And it all kind of comes together the way it does. But I think overall, for the most part, it's really awesome to see how people respect you guys and still want to visit with what you guys have done. And that is so seen as so significant to so many people, those roles. Is there like a We Were Stormtroopers on Empire Strikes Back social club or something where only you guys get together, the stormtroopers?
I've never been to one as such. I mean, I believe sometimes. I mean, I have Alan Flying and I are quite friends.
Uh,
Uh, but I don't think, I don't know. There might well be, but I've never been part of that. What I do find is that I looking back on those films, the things I remember are the things that went wrong because they're the
yeah.
things that are funny. And also, I do have some rather unique memories. Other people, I don't recall them. You have obviously spoken to so many of them, but there are some memories I have of filming that not many people have related. So I
Like
don't know
what?
if that's okay. Bespin, you know
Hmm.
the Bespin corridors, the
Yeah.
corridors at Bespin.
Yeah.
Well, if you can you hang on a minute, let me introduce somebody. Can you see him?
Yes, I see him. Nice.
Like, can you see this? Are
What do
you
you
seeing
got
the back
there?
of his leg?
Yeah.
How are you going to kneel with legs like that?
Right.
You can't, can you?
No. So what do you do?
Well, they stopped the scene, they stopped the filming and cut a V shape out of that. So you can do the shot, you bend down and kneel,
Right.
then they'd rebuild you. That's happened a few times to me at Bespin because I was in
Yeah.
some of the corridor sequences. And the other thing that's fun is the stuntman had rubber outfits for the stunts. So they'd go flying through the air like woof, woof, like that. But I didn't. So if I fell over, I felt it.
Yeah. That's true, right? You pay the price. So do you look at the
Yeah.
movie now with your friends and go, "Oh, that's me. That's me. That's me. There I am again with Darth Vader." Are you able to do
Uh,
that?
Sometimes, not all the time. Um, there's another story that you probably find amusing. I'm sure other stormtroopers did it. I'm not saying I'm unique, but I remember this. When the Force Awakens opened, I was contacted by Beryl Sharabnevsky of CNN Digital, the great big story.
Okay. Yeah.
She said, "I want to interview a real stormtrooper." I said, "Well, you don't want me. I'm one of the first generation." She said, "No, I want to
Come
talk to you."
on.
So she said, "Okay." So we did an interview a bit like this, but it was just on the phone. And she said, "I want to ask you some questions." Now I'm thinking this is going to be quite a serious thing. I'm not complaining in the end that it wasn't, but I'm thinking this is going to be quite a serious interview because it went on for half an hour.
Hmm.
And she said she was asking me all these sort of questions about what I did in Star Wars and everything and all this. And I said, well, all the times I fell over and all the problems I had with the costume. And that's what came out. That's what came out. All the things I told her that I thought were vaguely funny about me falling over. And I've got quite a few examples of falling over and crashing into things. And I think, that's what I've always remembered. Am I digressing here?
No, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, people sometimes remember the challenges, right? Not what went so well or was easy. They remember where they had to kind of overcome something, you
Well,
know.
I mean, Return of the Jedi was one.
Now, break that down. Were you in the British unit, or did you come out west to do the
No,
stuff in
I didn't come
Oregon?
up. No, no. This is what's interesting, Ethan, is I did most of the Redwood Forest stuff, which is the Endor stuff, was done in
Yeah,
the Redwood Forest. But there were some pickup shots and some linking shots done in Elstree, and one of
right.
those was when Luke surrenders. Luke partially surrenders in order to get to Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of the arresting stormtroopers, and I'm the one in the. As far as I'm aware, I'm the one in that shot.
Now, how were
Classic
those
shot.
two, how many days are they filming this sequence, this surrender sequence? 1 day, 2 day? What's on the schedule for that with these
I
two
remember it
actors?
being about. I think it was one. It certainly wasn't more than 2 days.
Hmm.
It wasn't a big. It wasn't a big thing.
And how was Mark Hamill during
Oh,
that
I love Mark.
sequence?
I absolutely love Mark Hamill. I've always. He's one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. He there's one. I'm somewhere, and I did not. It's not on that particular film. It's on the Empire. But there's we taken a break. I can't remember if it was I thought it was the carbon chamber, but people say it wasn't. It must have been another sequence we took a break in it. And four of us are playing cards.
Hmm.
Then we're all in partial stages of our dress. Leg bits are taken off, chest plates are taken off. We haven't got our helmets on. We haven't got our gloves on. Bits are hanging off us. And we're playing cards. And there's the three guys I'm playing with. I think it was Pontoon we were playing. The three guys I'm playing with are laughing at me. And I didn't know why they were laughing. And there's a guy taking pictures of us, a member of the crew. And I'm thinking, well, what's all going on here? Turns out Mark Hamill's behind me, looking at my cards and gesticulated to the other guys what cards I've got. That's the kind of person he is. He's always
Nice.
been allowed. He's this most spirited individual, one of the most spirited individuals I've ever met. Love him to bits. Haven't seen him for a few years, but when I do see him, I love him to bits.
I heard you were the reason he decided to do Return of the Jedi. He wanted to make sure you were coming back, and once he heard you were, he was a
Yeah,
full go.
yeah.
Uh, and 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 so that's got to be one of those moments too, because that's a pivotal point of the movie. Were you? I think I I've heard that other stormtroopers also played characters outside of the uniform.
Hmm.
You definitely did.
Yeah.
Were any of the other guys, or were they just, like there's also like an Imperial commander in that sequence, and I'm wondering, like, was that like a friend of yours from like another scene in another costume, or
Oh
some of the guys
God,
on Return of the Jedi?
it's quite strange because I meet people that I haven't seen for 20 years, 30 years, and we talk about things. And I think, oh, that was you. Oh gosh. I mean, it happens. It's not just Star Wars. It's happened on other productions, things I've done in.
Yeah.
And I, because I had my head was in a script a lot of the time. I didn't always make the same connections the others did, and my memories are very clear on the things I do remember, and less clear on the things that are that I didn't really. I'll give you an example. Richard Bonehill and myself were involved in a sequence during the Return of the Jedi, where we were away from the main set. There was Dave Prowse, 2 or 3 stormtroopers, plus Richard and myself, and we would do this kind of what we thought was some kind of nightmare fantasy sketch. We didn't know what the purpose it was. It was going to be like some kind of freaky dream or something, we thought.
Right.
Now, with the stormtrooper helmets, they break very easily. So we get back to my friend here. They tend to crack along here. You get a crack down there, it makes the helmet loose. So if you have a very loose helmet that you can't do much on, you put it on somebody's head, you punch them in the face, the helmet's going to revolve like that, which is quite comical. So Richard Bonehill had a few moments like that, and I didn't understand what it was for. It's not in the film. It's not in the film. And the reason it's not in the film is because while we were filming that, which meant that Dave Prowse as well was away from the main stage, was at the time on the Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader's helmet is removed to reveal the real Darth Vader. And of course, the real Darth Vader wasn't actually played by Dave Prowse. And that began how can I put it? A difference of opinion between Dave Prowse and George Lucas that I don't want to talk about. But I was in that sequence. That never seen the light of day, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
in the same way that the pictures of me playing cards haven't seen the light of day, unfortunately.
Oh, it's somewhere, buddy.
Point. They will at some point. Yeah, they will at some point. I'm sure they will.
It's definitely there somewhere. Someone's going to actually break the vault open and enjoy a couple stills with Ralph Morse as the centerpiece. Let me ask you something. I know that's always been a sticky thing, and I don't like to get into it either because Dave Prowse is gone, and I don't think George communicates enough about what his personal feelings were. But if you were doing that when they were shooting with Sebastian Shaw, did word get to Dave Prowse what they were doing? Like, did he find out? Was he told?
I don't know, and I'm not lying. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not covering up any. I'm very, very fond of Dave because when we were doing the Empire, and it gets very, very hot in those studios. It was particularly hot in the carbon chamber, which is why we took a break and everything. But other sequences got hot, and we'd open the studio doors and go and wait outside. And one particular day, myself and another stormtrooper had been filming against a blue screen. I don't even know what it was for. And we were outside at one point, and I started chatting with Dave, and he was talking about his life and everything. And he offered me to, he said, "Would you want to come down to my gym? I'll train you up free of charge." And I thought, what, given who he was and what he did, that was just the nicest thing you can say to somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody you don't really know that well. He was quite happy to say, "Come down, I could help you out. You seem like a nice guy. I'll give you some training free of charge." And then later, I did something naughty, but I wasn't aware I was naughty. I did a BBC production called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in 1980, and I played this character called a young scientist who solves a solution to the infinite probability generator and then gets lynched by a bunch of angry scientists because nobody likes the smart ass. That wasn't the exact title. It was called the smart ass. And because I'd been in that, we got invited to don on funny rubber heads for the restaurant at the end of the universe. And Dave was in that as the bodyguard to this, I don't know what it was, some kind of freakish looking character. And I met this rather glamorous brunette. I mean, I was free and fancy at that time. She's a very, very attractive brunette. And I started talking to her and, giving her a bit of flannel. She said, "Oh, what were you in then? You were in Star Wars." I said, "Yeah, my trust back." She said, "Oh, you know my Dave." And this large hand came out of somewhere, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Oh, how are you then?" And I thought,
And
"Hi,
your
Dave."
response was, "Hi."
I just said, "Hello, Dave."
Hello.
No, but I
Oh.
mean, he knew I wasn't, it was just fancy me trying to pull his missus. It was just funny. It wasn't I
Tell,
mean, it wasn't really offensive. It wasn't rude or anything, but it was just quite funny. But he was just a gentle giant. He really was.
tell me you went down for that training session, Ralph.
Sorry,
Tell, tell me you went down for that training session at his gym. Tell me you
I
have a
didn't.
story about
I
Darth
didn't.
Vader training
I
with you.
didn't. I'm afraid I didn't.
Oh,
I couldn't. I got something else. Something. I got work. The dreaded work,
yeah,
and
terrible.
I didn't. I didn't. I was also quite embarrassed, to be honest with you. I didn't take advantage of somebody. I don't. I felt a bit awkward about that.
But those are the things they do, right? Those athletes, man, they love to
Yeah,
sort of like
yeah,
cross
yeah,
train and
yeah.
expand with people. Hey,
The other
um,
thing is a bit terrifying because he's a big fella.
he
Not because
was,
he'd hurt
wasn't
me.
he?
I don't mean that, but because I was quite slim then. I took to take my shirt off then, and you blow me away in the wind. And
Oh, come on.
it's like embarrassing. Hello, Dave. Look at me. That would have
You know
been
what
fun.
you know what I wanted to actually say. Hold on a second here, real quick. I want to see if I can check something out. Uh, 1 second, Ralph.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to come back to this. Um, So we're gonna have to do a part two with you. I was actually concerned that we weren't gonna get the tech exactly right. So I said we'll do a
yeah.
half hour, and then if it
Okay,
works, we'll get him back for a longer conversation. But
okay.
the thing about the reveal of Darth Vader, that is actually quite common, as we know, in theater and movies, that the actor who is the part is not the face of the part. So it's tough. I don't think it was a personal call, but it's definitely not the call Prowse probably wanted. He probably also wanted to be the face, but I'm sure all along they probably had
Well,
an
he
idea
wanted
of what Darth Vader looked like.
one thing he did say to me when we were chatting about things. He said he wanted to be Superman. He wanted to be. He said, why can't I be? Why couldn't I be Superman? They said they didn't want an English actor. Um, but I mean, you can imagine Superman talk like that, can you? My name's Clark
Yeah,
Kensey. Don't know if that would
yeah,
work particularly, but he's such a nice fellow. And then of course he trained Christopher to reeve up to be
yeah.
Superman. That's the kind of bloke he was. No, I didn't bear grudges. I think towards the end, he and George just didn't talk. I think he was banned from George's conventions, and I think that's just very sad. I'm not taking sides in this because not my business, not something I was
Oh, and
actively
I mean,
involved.
who knows what it
But
was,
he's a nice.
honestly.
But all I know is that Dave was one of the nicest fellows I've ever met.
Yeah,
He's a
and I mean,
sweet,
and
as
who
indeed
knows
was Jeremy.
what's that?
As indeed was Jeremy. Jeremy Bullock.
Oh,
He
well,
was
we loved Jeremy here. He was one of my all-time favorite people to meet for dinner when he was in town. And
a character.
just such a well-rounded guy. But he and my daughter would always end up talking about art or something. That my daughter would steal the conversation with him because he was always fascinated with what she was doing as she was growing up. But he was a class act. So listen, real quick,
Mm,
I want to point out now, we were in the final few minutes, but a lot has been made of your work in Star Wars and the Stormtrooper cast members in general. But what I
yeah.
think people sometimes fail to recognize is that you guys had, some of you had very broad careers, and this was a day job when you were just starting out. And a lot of you guys have gone on to do things and play things. We're doing King Lear. at the time of Empire Strikes Back. Pretty
Yeah, I
pretty
was doing. Has to
prestigious.
be said. Has to be said though, Ethan. I was doing it for a very small company.
Right.
The thing was, I met Stephen Burkhoff,
Yeah.
and of course he started out being most famous as a playwright and theatre practitioner, doing
Yeah.
things with theatre. And he said to me he said, if people aren't going to employ you, employ yourself. In other words, do work yourself. And I'd worked with a company called Q Theatre, and that was funny. I started out when I left drama school to get my equity card, which in those days you needed to get to work. I mean, the whole thing's changed now. And I did a rather saucy comedy act. I created a character called Roger Me, as in Roger Me, and that was a
Right.
joke, So, and from that, I got the opportunity to go into not so much the West End, to go into Soho, where the strip joints are and everything, for a production by Q Theatre, of Cabaret.
Mm.
So that was fun, and then I was in a strip joint, basically. The strip joint had closed temporarily because there was an obscene publications thing going on. So they turned it into a temporary theatre. And my company that I auditioned for went in, I played the MC in Cabaret. And the end of that run, I was asked by the strip joint next door, because I was MC's a character, but he's also an MC, would
Correct.
I fancy
Correct.
MCing the strip joint for a couple of weeks? Whilst the guy was on holiday. And I did that. And it was quite funny because having
There's
done all
no
that,
you need look,
sorry,
man, it pays. It pays. There's no shame
it
there.
pays. It pays. But the funny thing about that was that as a result of that, I then started to audition for things, and I didn't get a lot of stuff. And so I took up Stephen Burkhoff's advice, and with a couple of other people, we formed our own company, which was Pause's Theatre Company. So I didn't intend playing King Lear. We did a lot of work at schools and A levels and O levels and high schools,
Mhm.
studying the stuff they were studying. We would do, and King Lear was on the prospectus one year, so we did that, and I was going to direct it. And a friend of mine, Norman Gay, who was the guy the world knows, he played the injured guest in The Shining, the one who has the line "Great party, isn't it?" But he was a RADA
Yes.
trainer. And I said, "Can you play King Lear?" And he was about pushing 70 then. He said, "No, I can't possibly do that." He said, "I'll tell you what, you could do it." I said, "I'm 24, for Christ's sake. I can't play King Lear at 24." He said, "Why not?" And he played Fool. He was my Fool, and he directed it. So it's quite an interesting production. And once I'd done that, afterwards I thought, I've done that. That's pretty incredible for me. It's great fun to have done it. Um, um, uh, I haven't done as much theatre in recent years. I've Who's Leonard Jones was a play I wrote and performed for Age Concern UK. I've got a few other things in the pipeline at the moment that I'm writing, but until they materialise.
Until they materialize, we'll keep mum on it.
Well, yeah.
But what is your favorite moment on stage?
Oh gosh, you mean as an actor, as a singer, as a writer?
As
Well, I mean, I don't
and
know.
it can be anything, but the moment where you said, "This is it. This is where I belong."
Well, that particular company, there were quite a few moments that I had with that company because they were a small company. Nobody said to me, "You can't do that. You can't. You've got to do it this way." Shakespeare said, "No, no. We worked together." So King Lear was one. I played Billy Liar, the Keith Porterhouse play. I played that, and that's got a real buzz. I played it at college, but I played it twice, and I played it there. Bottom in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, this is a case in point. We played it at the Mimac Theatre, which is in Porthcurno, which is in Cornwall. And it's the theatre's an amphitheatre, and the sea is behind it. So we changed the dialogue because A Midsummer Night's Dream is really based on Apuleius's golden ass, hence the ass, the donkey's head. Well, we said, well, we can't do that. It's a sea. We put a cod's fish's head on him. So at one point I would say, "I understand, I knavery. Thou means to make a codpiece of me." Those are moments where you don't do what people want you to do. You take a risk. I think it's the risks that make life exciting.
You're absolutely right about that, Ralph. Listen, I need to bring you back for a part two. I'm going to shoot you a message to get what your schedule
Yeah.
straight. I'm
Yeah.
glad we
Okay.
made
Yeah.
I'm glad we made this work.
That's brilliant.
Um,
I really loved it.
yeah, you are
I
an
don't talk
absolute
too much.
No, no, no. It's in fact,
When I get
honestly,
excited, I talk fast.
and you are a fantastic guest. My problem is, I felt like we're going to misfire on the tech connection because you're in an undisclosed location overseas. But
Yeah.
we'll bring you back for a part two when you can do it because there's a lot more to talk about, especially stage wise with you.
And
There it
it's
is.
in
Let's hold it up, sir. Oh,
Johnny Cashbox.
Johnny Cashbox, baby. All right, Ralph. I'll talk to you soon. I want to say thank you for your time.
My
We
pleasure. My pleasure,
and
Ethan. My pleasure.
RalphMorris.com for the audience. Is that where they can go to find
Yes,
out about you?
that's the one. Yeah.
RalphMorris.com. Living legend and one of our favorites, Ralph Morris. Thank you, brother.
Bless you. Thank you, Ethan. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Is this okay? Hi, my name is David Pasquesi. You may recognize me from television program or motion picture, or not. NMOSD is a central nervous system disorder, and it's pretty brutal. You can help. Go to GuthieJacksonFoundation.org and donate today to help them find a cure. GuthieJacksonFoundation.org.